my wife and I read his book on the 12 Rules of Life.
That's right.
About a year or so ago, and we both much enjoyed it. Although it is a rambling book. His 12 rules, he states these rules and then goes all around the houses with all sorts of anecdotes and highways and byways, and then finally you come back, oh, that's what this chapter was about, I'd nearly forgotten. And I think several reviewers have said that sort of thing, so this isn't me being rude. I think this is just how the book feels. At the same time, there's a lot of sort of combination of partly homespun, almost folk wisdom in the face of some of the follies of late modernity. And I think one of the reasons he's so popular is that he actually dares to say that the emperor has no clothes, with some of the sillier things that in the postmodern world some people are taking for granted. I mean, I think the great fuss happened in the University of Toronto when a directive went out about that professors should use a gender-neutral pronoun rather than he or she, whatever.
And he sort of, I mean, the context of that was, I think, also that Canada was in the process of possibly passing legislation which could criminalise the use of certain types of language, pronouns and so on, if you didn't use them. And he, as I understand it, having spoken to him about it, Jordan Peterson said it's not that he has any issue with using the pronouns people require. It's the forced. It's the criminalisation that he has.
And I think that is a point where what one can broadly call a kind of postmodern liberal left has tipped over into forms of tyranny. And if they say, oh, that's because people are so hurt and upset by the traditional things, I say Jordan Peterson would say, come on, get used to it. This is a tough world, and we all have to figure stuff out, and simply legislating things out. It's like the whole business of no platforming speakers and so on. Your opinions are not welcome here. And he would fight against that, as I would. Yes. That's not to say that you invite people with utterly ridiculous, shameful, horrible views, you know, at the same time within a very broad spectrum. So I think the fact of him doing the Emperor Has No Clothes stuff is very welcome, and people have welcomed it. The trouble with that, the danger with that, is that it can become a bit of a bandwagon, and people who then want to push back and say, too bad for all that political correctness, we're going to go back to an old macho chauvinistic world or whatever. I don't think, that's not how I hear Peterson.
No.
And when I read his book, I then watched 3 or 4 YouTube videos, and I saw him. There's a famous one, I think, where he was interviewed by one of our Channel 4.
Kathy Newman, that went viral. Yes,
right. Well, I saw that, and that was a revealing moment. But I suspect that he probably doesn't like being typecast in that way, because I think there's much more going on there, and he clearly is on a journey and questioning himself. In terms of conversation about the resurrection, I'm happy to talk to anyone about the resurrection any time. I mean, he and I have not met, we have not talked, but obviously that is the big question. And my sense is that he's made a career out of coming from the far sort of central northwest of Canada, way away from the big cities, coming to the big city, looking around, rather like Martin Luther going to Rome, saying, "Is this what it's all about? Now, come on, can we have some common sense here?" And that's a very healthy way of approaching things, and I would love to see that grow and blossom into something else.
And the other side in which I think he's having really interesting conversations is with many of the big secular names. So he's had these big sort of conversation debates with people like Sam Harris and others. And it's interesting to see he won't be pinned down on Christianity, the resurrection and so on, but he's not ruling it out by any sense.
Sure.
And so, who knows? Well,
that's great.
Jordan, if you are listening, then the table is set. You're very welcome on my show to do something with Tom.
That would be great fun.
But it would be fun.
For podcast episodes, bonus content, and to ask your question, sign up at askntwright.com.